So for this short segment from Fresh Out of College podcast, we're going to talk about the MLB, just kind of the state of it, how summer camp going, some of the news around, who's playing, who's not playing, some people who are on the border. And there's also about, what teams Drew and I think will really succeed. Some of the young players are excited to see maybe if they're given an opportunity. So let's jump into it.
All right, Ryota, what do you think? Spring training is starting up. It started up last Friday. Any news going around, and what's kind of the atmosphere like that you're reading about?
Yeah, I think looking at Bleacher Report, Twitter, or reading all these news sites, a lot of people are skeptical still. Some people are saying they're completely not in. Some people are saying they're really not sure. They're not feeling safe. I know Chris Bryant has recently expressed his opinion, saying he's not really feeling safe as he originally intended or originally thought the MLB would. And I don't think he's, calling out the MLB by any means. He's just saying that's just the way it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Trout is expecting a baby soon. His wife is expecting a baby soon. So he's kind of skeptical. He's at summer training. We saw him, running around with his mask on, but he's not sure. Buster Posey also expressed his opinion, saying he's not sure either. But then we've also seen David Price say he's totally out. Felix Hernandez, who's now a Braves, is out. Ryan Zimmerman from the Nationals is out. A couple more players. I know Ian Desmond is out, but that's more for, I think it's also for safety precautions, but also just because, not as racial, how do I say it? I don't know how to say it. Racial protesting, racial injustice movement.
Yeah.
He just kind of thinks it's a bad time to play. So he's kind of doing that. But yeah, there's a couple other players who are not playing. There's like a coach that I read that's not going to be a part of the Indians for this restart, but that's what I have. Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit most of the names on the head. It was surprising that David Price opted out, just because I think that team is geared for the finals or geared for the World Series, that being the Dodgers. But it is interesting, and I think we will see more teams or more players opt out and kind of go the route of, okay, I'm not going to play this season. I'm going to wait for next season. And then, like you said, a lot of people it's going to take a toll on families. Mike Trout is expecting a baby. So, but if he opts out, that's like the face, some would say the face of the MLB. And what is that like? If LeBron James opts out of the NBA, like, whoa, because I kind of compare LeBron James or Mike Trout of the MLB to LeBron James just in terms of talent. Maybe Mike Trout's not as vocal on social media, but I think every fan can say that that Mike Trout is like one of the best players. And if he opts out, what does that say to the whole season? I don't know. It will be really interesting to see. I think it will be. I think Bryant was more hesitant because I think he does have an underlying health condition that he's worried about. So that would be the MLB would have to take care of that and kind of be more diligent when it comes to that and read into every medical report that the players have, just so there isn't that lapse when it comes to that. But also injuries can definitely be a concern as well. I think Tanaka sustained an injury last weekend that I'll let you talk more about, but that whole issue, and I think last week or a few podcasts back, you said that pitchers were more susceptible just because they haven't had the time and the conditioning. And I think, I don't know, you'll talk more about the Tanaka injury, but maybe we could see more pitchers getting injured and what that will do to their careers. And maybe a lot of those people will opt out. So do you want to talk about the Tanaka injury?
Tanaka was throwing live VP to Giancarlo Stanton, and Stanton hit a line drive back and it hit Tanaka in the head. Obviously we never.
Okay, so it was more of a fluke. It was more of a fluke than an arm.
So this is a good example of, well, not a good example, I want to say, but first off, just the injury was really bad. He kind of got hit in the head. I mean, I guess he's fine according to Aaron Boone and New York Yankees, and he's doing okay. It's not like he's in a hospital in a coma or anything. He's bounced back from it pretty good. But yeah, I talked a couple of weeks ago about, how pitchers require extra preparation. They have this extended spring training, but now they're in a summer camp with, compact throwing program.
Exactly.
Who knows how much throwing and bullpens and live ABs have been throwing, at home before, summer camp. So it's definitely a little bit worrying. But I want to go back I'll come back to this later because the Mariners are doing something to potentially, help this. But I want to go back to your point about David Price.
Yeah.
The Price is, part of the Dodgers team who have a
They're
great
the
chance of
Dodgers.
winning.
They always have a great chance of
Yeah,
winning.
and they got Mookie Betts now, and they still have all these good pitchers and great starting nine. But I think it says a lot about how human these athletes are. Like we see them as gods or superstars, but I mean they're human, right? Mike Trout, again, I mean probably arguably one of the greatest behind Ken Griffey out of the outfield,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Definitely.
but he saying family is more than baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot about this human nature. I know Felix has kids too, and I'm sure he's thinking the same thing. Like I want to keep my family safe. Even though he's on a good Braves team too, but he's saying baseball is, and as important as it is, as important as even though it's my life, I have another life that I need to take care of. Ryan Zimmerman won the World Series last year, and he's saying baseball is so important. I think that's cool to see that, like because these guys are on really good teams, and they're saying it's not about that right now. There's some more important things to take care of.
It's also interesting to see that these guys are older too.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we don't see the younger guys because this might be their chance to come in and play and show what they're made of. But some of the older guys are opting out as well, just to
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like the younger you are, the less likely you to have kids. And when you have kids, it makes everything different. And Mike Trout clearly said, "I want to be there when my baby's born." Right. So I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, going back to the whole pitching thing, teams have to be really careful with how they're proceeding, how they're going to take the season, and how they're going to approach it as pitching staff and pitching coach. So the Mariners recently decided that they're going to do a 6-man rotation instead of a 5-man rotation, which is traditional in, United States. And I did a lot of research kind of connecting back to, Japan and how they approach pitching.
Mm-hmm.
So in Japan, they do a 6-man rotation. And Darvish brought this up a couple of years ago, or maybe more than a couple of years, like several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he recommended the Rangers do a 6-man rotation when he was with the Rangers. And I think Service and Dipoto are saying, maybe it's something they'll do in the future. Like we've seen the Rays, they're not doing a 6-man rotation, but like they're heavily relying on the bullpen. They have that spot start thing that worked pretty well for them. And, teams are getting creative. So maybe we'll see the 6-man rotation. Again, it's harder because that means you need 6 solid starters instead of 5.
Yeah.
But if that's something that can work, it could really help with pitchers not being fatigued later on. And that's another reason why I advocate for Japanese pitchers. And they may struggle at first, or they might not have a successful career in the big leagues. But having 1 day difference, having an extra day of rest makes a huge difference. When you change your routine like that, especially in baseball as a starting pitcher, it can drastically change. Maybe we'll see Kikuchi thrive in the 6-man rotation, or maybe just needed 1 year to get used to the 5-man rotation. Darvish has been injury ridden, and that could be a reason. I don't know, but anyway, 6-man rotation,
especially when, sorry to cut you off, but when like Japanese players come overseas and come to the MLB, we kind of see them struggle, like you said, and I think they do get injured. I think Tanaka had an injury with his arm, and then I think Darvish also struggled with injuries. Otani, and it is a difference, and a day makes a huge difference. So we'll see what happens. The Rays, I think, did something similar. I don't think they had a 6-man rotation, but they had a reliever come in and maybe pitch the first 2 innings, and then the starting pitcher can go through that. I don't know if that was more strategic and not having the starting pitcher go through the 1, 2, 3 order, or maybe that was trying to cut out some of the innings. But I think you're right. I think we might see a 6-man rotation, and that just means more starting pitchers will be needed. So we'll have to see what happens. But you're right. We might see a change, and I know that a 6-man rotation hopefully is useful, and hopefully it doesn't just take away that extra bullpen person that can come in. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. Give me your top picks and who is most affected by, what team do you think is most affected by a shortened season?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, it's going to be the teams that don't have depth.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially in the bullpen, I think starting off, we're not going to see pitchers go 110 pitches every game. I think they're going to have to do progression just so summer camp's so short. So I think, I mean, my guess would be I don't expect pitchers to throw more than 100 pitches for the first couple of weeks. So that means we're going to have to rely on the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
But it also entirely depends on who's going to dominate. Is it the pitchers or the hitters?
Yeah.
I think for me,
I think it would be the hitters,
see,
to be
I don't,
honest.
it's tough to say though, because yeah, you're right. Pitching, you can kind of just throw into a net, or you just need one catcher to catch your bullpen. But hitting, you need a real pitcher. You know, hitting BP is different than hitting live. And when your
Yeah,
eyes
but I
just
would
aren't
also
used to
say
it,
that pitchers need to work up more to get to that level of pitching, where they can throw like 100 to 120 pitches, or even get up to that strength of like, okay, I'm going to consistently hit 94 miles an hour. And I think hitters might have an easier chance when it comes to, okay, maybe they won't throw their off speed as much. Maybe they'll throw more. I don't know. This is
oh,
all
so
hypothetical.
you're saying hitters will dominate.
I think at the start, I think hitters have a better chance of getting more acclimated to the game, and I think we'll see. And I also think these hitters have been doing BP, and I think they're not as rusty.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I guess
also, I hope.
I disagree just because I think hitting, like for me, like when I come back from like when I was in high school, so you'd have kind of
Mhm.
this fall off season, right? Because you can't do any practices or like games really until the spring in high school. Because you play like summer baseball, a bunch of games. You have this weird break during the fall where it's just kind of your own practices.
Mhm.
But you know, not playing games and having your eyes not used to like 80-mile-per-hour pitches just at my level was hard enough. Like
Mhm.
it took me a while to get into the groove of things sometimes, and I think it's going to be even tougher for hitters. Like, yeah, they can have machines, they have people throw to them, but it's not the same as a, you know, Clayton Kershaw curveball or a, you know, Noah Syndergaard fastball. I think
Yeah.
I
I
think for
mean,
the first
we'll see.
while, it might.
I hope what they're doing is, I know what the Mariners have done, and I think Justin Dunn, which is a young pitcher for the Mariners, and he actually roomed with Evan White, and I'm slipping on the Mariners. What's the outfielder we got from the
Fraley.
Rays? Fraley. They roomed together, so I think they were able to work together, and I think Evan White and Fraley have been getting live BP, which, I mean, like you said, it could be different. But I think just getting up to speed and being able to, okay, I'm going to zero in on this. I think it could be easier, and I think we will see more hitting occur, just because I think pitchers might be more reluctant to throw that off-speed pitch if they haven't thrown it in a while. And maybe they're not, I don't know, maybe the stamina might be not as high, and maybe, like you said, we'll see not the starting tier pitchers go as far, so we'll see more of the relievers come in.
Yeah.
And at that point, like I'm not saying like relievers are worse than starting pitchers, I'm just saying they don't really have the repertoire. Not a lot of them. I know some of the greats do, but like maybe they only have like two pitches, so okay, I'm a hitter, so I'm only looking for these two pitches. I'm looking for a fastball and a slider, compared to like a starting pitcher, which might have like 4 or 5 they can choose from. And then obviously like relievers are great, and some of them can really impact a game. But I also think there are a lot fewer of those impactful relievers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we'll just see what happens.
That's fair.
And it will be fun to see who does better. Do the pitchers do better, or do the batters do better?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see.
So also, like you said, that a lot of people are opting out. A lot of players are opting out. So this brings a lot of younger players into the mix. And what the MLB is doing is they're having 60-man rosters. So there'll be 30 teams for the opening day, and then 30 like on a taxi squad. So do you have any young prospects that you think will take this chance and go far for it? And like name some of those off,
Yeah, I mean,
if you have
just
any.
as far as some of the players that might be replacing the players who opt out. So if Trump opts out, that might open a spot up for Joe Adele, you know, their top prospect in the outfield, who they don't think will be quite ready. Like even if Trout played, like they don't think like Adele will play. But if Trump's out, maybe that opens up a spot for him. Maybe not as a starter, but just to get some, just to get his feet wet in the water.
Yeah.
I also interestingly read, so if Buster Posey sits out, that leaves a catching void, and they have their prospect Joey Bart.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name is Joey Bart.
Yep, you're
Who's
right.
highly touted, but again, he's not quite ready, I think, or they, like they weren't planning on having him play this year. But I mean, who knows what happens? It really depends on the organization. But those are two young names, top prospects we might see. But also just like players that are expected to play, like Casey Mize for the Tigers.
That's who I was going to say.
Expected to pitch. Forrest Whitley for the Astros. They don't have Garrett Cole anymore, so they see another pitcher. Nick Madrigal, the former OSU Beaver that I really like, is going to be playing for the White Sox, it seems like, at second. And I want to come back to the White Sox lineup because I think they are
young.
revamped. Also, his teammate, Luis Robert. I don't know if he'll be ready, but he's another obviously big talent. And then last but not least, Evan White for the Mariners. And I think.
So like you said, Casey Mize, I kind of just want to talk more about that. He was the number 1 pick, I believe, 2 years ago now, by the Detroit Tigers. And I'm just excited to see it because whenever the Mariners had a top prospect that wasn't a hitter, that was a pitcher, it was always fun to see like this guy come out every 5 days or now every 6 days. But now that some of these other top players might not play, we could see him like get more comfortable and be like, this could be an extended spring training. I mean, obviously there's going to be better players, but it'll be fun to see Casey Mize come out and show what he was touted as the number 1 draft pick. But yeah, and then Evan White, hopefully his bat will translate to the MLB. I think that's kind of the one thing I'm worried about. I know his defense is there, but hopefully he can make that stride hitting wise. Yeah.
Do you have any picks or like top teams or sleeper teams you want to look at?
Yeah. So what I think, so Houston is supposed to still be really good this year. I do think they might scuffle back a little bit, and not just because they know every pitch. But like you said, I think their rotation has been really good. But I think Justin Verlander's getting up there in age. He might not have like all of the tools, just because it is a shortened season. It's because it is so wacky of a season that they might tone him down a little bit. And that is where I think maybe the A's could make a run for it in the division. Maybe the Angels if Trout plays. So seeing some of those teams kind of sprout up. I was reading an article that with the short season, more teams that didn't have a chance before have now fully gotten a chance. I think I saw one team, I think the Rays went up by like 20%. I think their odds boosted up by a lot. So I honestly do think that the younger teams could make a run for this just because they're hungry and maybe they have more to prove, and maybe the older guys might take a step back and be like, okay, I'm not going to risk only 60 games, because they're used to they're used to the full 162. I think the Dodgers are in a tough spot, to be honest with you. I think they've invested so much into their core, and now I feel like they're kind of getting cheaped out of, okay, this is a shortened season. We might not have, like, Mookie Betts is here, but I mean, we wanted it for the full season instead of the shortened season. But yeah, I mean, do you want to talk about the White Sox? Because they're a young, powered team that is on the rise, and maybe this season will be good, and maybe we'll have to see. But do you have some?
Well, I mean, I'll touch up on the Dodgers and the Rays too. So I mean, the Rays, one of the reasons why their odds are high because their bullpen, like their seasoned bullpen, just from the past 2 years, and how Kevin Cash has dealt with them. So I think that's why their odds are really high. The Dodgers are still, you're right. I don't know. It's a little. Not really sure what's going on. Like Kenley Jansen hasn't reported yet to camp for unknown reasons, but their bullpen's really they have good depth in the bullpen. They have Joe Kelly, Blake Trinan, Pedro Baez, Ross Stripling, Scott Alexander, Dustin May. And I mean, even without David Price, their starting pitching their top 2 are really good. Then you'd add Price to it normally, but then you have some back end guys who I think you can rely on, but are still a little bit of a question mark. So you have Kershaw and Buehler, obviously. If
Mm.
Julio Urias, who's was supposed to be one of the best pitchers out of the Dodgers system, who hasn't really proven himself yet. You also have Alex Wood, who's been really, really consistent. So if he can repeat that, they'll be good. And then they have options like Dustin May, their prospect, who pitched last year, pretty decent as a young guy. They also have Jimmy Nelson, the former Brewer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think the Dodgers are still in. I mean, they're going to be competitors. Like they have a great nine. Muncy, Bellinger, Chris Taylor, Justin Turner. Now Mookie in the
Yeah,
mix. It'll be
I do
interesting
think
to see.
but with the shortened season, I think every win now has more and more value to it.
Mhm.
So even if they go on like a little bit of a slip, like that's tough. And I think what they construct this team with is like, okay, we'll beat them over the 162 game season. Like if we maybe have to rest a few guys because they're getting up there in age, we can do that because we have that power. But
Right.
now that it's only 60 games, I think we'll see more pitch. I mean, I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens because there's definitely going to be more value on on each game because it's so
Right.
crucial.
But I wonder
Um,
why do you think the Dodgers won't have that?
yeah. So I mean, I don't. I think Houston might be more impacted just because I think the A's and the Angels have a better. I mean, when you have Trout, you have any chance of winning. But I think with the shortened season, you give those teams a better chance. Um, for the Dodgers, I still think they will be World Series competitors. So I was just throwing those names out there, but
Okay.
I think it just because a shortened season, every game has more value to it,
Hmm.
and if you do lose one game, I mean, it's tough, and it's not like you can sacrifice those games, because it's not 162. But yeah, do you want to talk about the
Yeah.
White Sox?
Yeah. So the White Sox, I was looking at the World Series odds and who
Mm,
they think is going to be power ranking or whatever. But White Sox are pretty low. But I'm just going to go through their depth chart really quickly. So they're starting pitchers, Giolito, which I'm a huge fan of, who's really turned his kind of career around after being a prospect for a while. Really shined last year. Signed Dallas Keuchel. Gio Gonzalez is our number 3 right now. Who's been a seasoned veteran pitcher. It'll be
yep.
interesting to see what kind of Gio Gonzalez we get. But if we get him like he was with the A's early in his career, he could be really good. They also have Ronaldo Lopez, who's a young kind of pitcher who's had some ups and downs, but he's not bad. The bullpen got some big names: Kelvin Herrera, Steve Cishek, Alex Colomé. So they have some bullpen pitchers, but their lineup to have
Mm-hmm.
Grandal, they signed to a long deal for the catcher position, which we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. They have Jose Abreu, Edwin Encarnacion at DH, Nick Madrigal at second, Yohan Moncada at third, who had a breakout season last year. I think
Yeah.
I was lucky to have him on my fantasy team last year because he went off. Tim Anderson, which we all know about how he's a stud on the field and on defense and with the bat. Eloy Jimenez, big power guy who's still young, has still a lot of room to grow. Hopefully, we see Lewis Robert in center field, and then Nomar Mazara, the former Ranger,
Mm-hmm.
in right or left. So I like the White Sox. And
Yeah,
again, we talked about when you're young versus
they look
old,
good on
you
paper
might
for
have this
sure.
motivation, but most of these guys are young, except maybe Abreu, who's not that terribly old. Encarnacion's pretty old, but Grandal's like 31 or something. So, and the rest of the guys, young talent. So I'll be excited to see what the White Sox have. And I don't know, I could see them as a sleeper making a playoff run.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's fun seeing these young guys come up, and hopefully they can put it together. I feel like Jose Abreu's been there forever though,
Yeah.
and I think he's only. I don't think he's like you said. I don't think he's that old.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely a team to look out for. Any other teams that you have your eye on in the shortened season?
Um, obviously, I'm going to be cheering for the Mariners. I wonder what your thoughts are on them.
Yeah, I think what for the Mariners, I think we just can't rush any of the prospects we have on the taxi squad. So I'm okay with not seeing Logan Gilbert, um, and hopefully not Julio Rodriguez or Klinich. Um, but I really want to see Evan White progress. I'm excited to see the outfield, and Tim Lowe, like some of these utility guys too. And if they have kind of if they're long tenured here or not. And the 60 games will really tell because I think they're all hungry to fight. Kyle Seager is the mainstay as always, so hopefully he can produce, and maybe we could trade him next year because I know he's coming up on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully he can produce and be kind of that guy in the middle of the lineup. Yeah, and then I mean JP is still young, and I still have hope for him that he can turn his bat around. He's really good on defense, like we know. So it will be interesting to see. It's a young team, like you said. The bullpen is a work in progress, and I think last year they set a record for how many players came up. So maybe there'll be some more like that, sort of high like flow of players coming in and out. But yeah, I'm excited to see the team go. Hopefully we can win some games. Hopefully we can make a spark in the AL West. I still think, I personally think the AL West is one of the best. I think, even though I've bagged on Houston, I think the A's and the Angels are really good, and I think they have a chance of making a run, maybe in the wild card. But yeah, is there any players that you want to talk specifically about?
Yeah, I'll first touch on the AL West. I think, the Astros and A's are going to dominate the league.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on the record last year. I forgot how good the A's were last year. I think they had 97 wins. Like, crazy to think that.
And
I think they're going to.
Some of the prospects are coming up too.
Right. I think AJ Puck might come up for them. So, yeah, the A's always have a good farm system. They're well respected for it. And, every reason to think that they're going to be good this year. It'll be interesting to see how the Astros deal, with all these scandals. And I personally don't want the Astros to succeed, but I think they'll be a good team, not a great team. But the Rangers are interesting. They signed Corey Kluber.
Right, I forgot about that.
Honestly, at the top of my head, I couldn't tell you who their starting nine is, just because I don't think they're that relevant.
Odor. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, though? Like, know Odor, but he's Odor. Elvis Andrus is the only player I really respect on that team. Joey Gallo tested positive for COVID recently.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
If you think about that, who else do you know? You know what I mean? There's not that many.
They're definitely that team is definitely where the Mariners are, I think. But I think their farm system's not as high up.
My bold prediction is that the Mariners will beat out the Rangers and the Angels this year.
Oh, you think they'll beat out the Angels?
Because I'm looking at the Angels depth chart, but who are their starting pitchers? They're saying Andrew Heaney is going to be the number one. And I've had respect for Andrew Heaney. I've drafted him in fantasy baseball a couple of times, but he's injury riddled. And he's only had 1 or 2 good seasons. I'm looking at right now. They have Julio Teheran, who was good a little bit for the Braves, but really hasn't figured it out. Dylan Bundy, who used to play for the Orioles, who had one good year, but didn't play that well last year. Obviously, they have Ohtani, but he's not ready to pitch, right? Is he? Or I'm not really sure.
We'll see. I do think the Angels, the Angels are probably not going to make the playoffs just because of the A's and the Houston, but I think they're sort of a team that doesn't go to the very bottom, especially when they do have Mike Trout, because Mike Trout brings such high level play each and every day. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of, when you have that cog, players or pitchers don't want to pitch against him, so you have to pitch to other players, and that opens up the ball for his teammates. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It will be interesting. I think the Mariners always struggle against the Angels.
Yeah, but it's gonna be different this year.
Okay.
We have a totally fresh new squad. How many of these names? No one around the leagues. If you're not a Mariner fan, half of these names you don't recognize because they're all new. It's a new era.
Yeah, and that's. I think that's also kind of. I'm not saying it's an issue, but I'm also saying we just have to see how they play, mm-hmm. Because they're so new.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I really hope I don't see any of Logan Gilbert up, or like I said.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see Gilbert pitch, though.
You don't think we will? Okay.
Maybe I hope in the pen, because I'm looking at our 6-man rotation right now. As projected, it's Marco Gonzalez, mm-hmm. Kikuchi, Sheffield, Graveman, Taiwan, and Justin Dunn.
Yeah.
So there's not really room for Gilbert unless one of them gets injured anyways, but we might see Gilbert in the pen maybe, or we move Sheffield to the pen. I don't know.
Okay, so what I think, just kind of stay on the Mariners topic a little bit. If we move Gilbert to the pen, I think that would be a bad move. I think we've groomed him to be in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
That if he starts to go to the pen and only focuses on maybe 1 or 2 pitches, then I think that stunts his development. I think your best bet is to put him in the rotation, like 100%. Don't take him out. Don't put him back to AAA. Keep him in there. Let him, experience all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you put him into the rotation, I just feel like that's kind of like, okay, we don't have confidence in you. I don't know. That's how I feel.
Maybe we'll see him in the midseason then.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of excited to see him because we've heard so many good things, and I want to see him on live TV.
Yeah, I would love to see Taiwan have a resurgence with the Mariners.
I really hope so too.
But I think Marco's solid. I think Dunn has the chance to stay in the rotation, and I hope he does. But I don't want to rush these young guys, because we've invested so much in them that the last thing we can do is turn them into Dustin Ackley's or Mike Zaninos, where we just okay, here's the MLB, who get
I get it, but I don't know. I'm just excited for the Hems lineup. I think we have a really good comparing to
here's another team that could also be surprised. Toronto, the Blue Jays.
Interesting.
Let me bring up their depth chart. Toronto.
I mean, they have Bo Bichette, obviously, Kevin Biggio at second, Vlad Guerrero, Smoke still.
So obviously Guerrero is going to be the first one, the big name, just because of his dad.
Do they have pitching though?
Do they have?
Oh, they signed a Hyunjin Ryu.
Tanner Roark, who played for the Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
Matt Shoemaker. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like when he was on the Angels, I feel like we could never hit him.
Yeah, I remember he was. I think he was an All-Star one year, or close to one.
I mean, I think you would be right on that, but I mean, the rotation. Yeah. Other than that, yeah. But their depth chart.
I can't argue that. Or I will argue that they will be good in a couple of years because they just called up Kevin Biggio, Craig Biggio's son, who didn't play that well last year, but I mean he's still young. Vlad Guerrero is going to grow. Bo Bichette's going to grow. Their Gold Glove catcher Danny Jansen's going to get better and better. So I think they have a good core right now. I don't know if they'll be competitors this year though.
I think they'll just be fun. I think they're one of the teams that I think will be fun to watch.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, just look. I mean,
who's in their outfield though? I don't.
Their outfield, so their right fielder is Randall Gurch.
Oh, right. Gurch.
Yeah. Did they lose? Who is their one guy? Pilar. Is he gone now?
He's Giants now.
Wow.
I thought, or he was last year, at the end of the last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many moving parts in MLB. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah, especially when they get older like that, you don't really know.
Yeah, he's with for the Boston Red Sox. He previously played for the Jays and the Giants.
Oh.
He's 31 years old. He was a highlight reel for defensive players.
Yeah.
Any other teams we can think of? National League.
I looked at the Padres a little bit.
Padres.
Their pitching is not that strong. They only really have Chris Paddock, who I'm a huge fan of the rookie, Or not, I don't know if he's a rookie, but he's a young guy.
He is a rotation guy?
He's their ace.
Okay, yeah.
But they have Francisco Mejia, catcher, Hosmer, Myers, Profar, Machado, Tatis, Pham. That's a solid 7-8 players right there.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, they have Garrett Richards, Dilson Lamet, who pitched okay last year, Zach Davies from the Brewers, and Pomeranz maybe in the mix. So I think that could be another team to look for. The Padres are definitely trying to compete. They signed Machado, they got Hosmer, they're still keeping Myers, they have Tatis at shortstop. So that could be an interesting team. I wouldn't be so strong about them, but
now with the DH, it opens up a lot,
Exactly. Myers will probably hit DH, so he doesn't have to run and get injured again. So
yeah, I mean DH is such a luxury. Edwin Encarnacion wouldn't have had the career he is having right now, or even, Nelson Cruz, even. So
yeah,
I mean, it just opens up a way for power, and you don't have to have that pitcher. So we'll obviously see more
Yeah.
runs in that
So we
sense
should
too.
definitely talk about this again in the future. I want to talk about,
Yeah,
I
we
think
should.
I'm a huge advocate for adding league-wide DH, and a lot of people are like it's not traditional and it changes everything. But I'm just like,
I mean,
okay.
it definitely does change how you're gonna go about setting your lineup
Hmm.
and like pitching for like, okay, now we don't have quote unquote an easy out.
Right.
Um, so it changes the game a lot, and
Hmm.
this will be an interesting way or to see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so I think that's all for the MLB. We'll keep you guys updated when we know more, and once games start playing, we'll obviously do predictions and see where that goes and track our favorite players. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think we'll end it here.
All
Have a
right.
good one,
Have a
guys.
good one.